Hello, everyone. I am Matt Williamson. Let's break this game down. I am excited for this one. This is a really fun opponent. I think Washington is probably the best story of any team in the league, kind of like the Texans last year. Second overall pick. Things look terrible in the organization. You get a quarterback, a new coach, and everything's different. You know, the stink of old ownership is gone, and the Commanders are in a really good spot. All right, let's just talk about when they have the ball here first. And first of all, I think this is the most diverse offensive scheme in the league. So you're probably aware that Cliff Kingsbury is their offensive coordinator, and he is former head coach of Arizona. But he's really basically just in charge of play calling in the passing game. Anthony Lynn, former head coach of the Chargers, two former head coaches, as you notice, is the run game coordinator. And I'm going to start there because their run game is really good and it's really diverse. And you're going to see a lot of pullers, a lot of misdirection, obviously a massive quarterback run threat in a Lamar Ravens-like manner. But it's really hard to figure out what they're doing in the run game. Lynn does a great job of figuring that stuff out. And their offensive line, while it might not be the most talented out there, is also really well coached. You're going to hear well coached a lot in this podcast. And boy, are they nasty. I mean, they are a physical offensive line that loves pushing people around. And this entire team plays that way. Both sides of the ball. Even their receivers are feisty and blockers, and they, again, well coached, everyone on the same page, everyone's buying in with aggression. Their best offensive lineman is their right guard, Sam Cosmi. He has become a Pro Bowl type guy. The center, Biotish, is the glue to it all and is also a good player, but no noticeable weak links on the line. Protection's not as good as run blocking, though. I mean, there's just no way around that. Obviously, Daniels is a really good ball carrier, and we'll get to his passing in a minute, too. I don't know if Brian Robinson, their top back, will play. He didn't last week. Typical Bama back like Najee or Jacobs or Henry. He runs hard. He's aggressive. He's a really competitive player. But he's not special. I mean, he'd be last on my list of those Bama backs I just mentioned. Eckler's redeemed himself, got back to being a really good player, especially in the passing game and especially when he's in space and things of that nature. He's a good pass protector. So their run game is a real challenge, and we know the Steelers have struggled lately. I'm sure a massive point of emphasis over this bye, though, is we are stopping the run all, no matter what. And I think that they're equipped to. We'll see. I've been kicking around the idea of maybe a game like this because their run game is so, not that their passing game is bad, but because their run game is so challenging, maybe it wouldn't be a terrible idea to have a Landon Roberts play in the nickel and see how that goes. This is a better run interior presence. Who knows? But as for this passing game, Daniels is mature beyond his years. I mean, he's very calm. He's remarkably accurate. He knows where to go with the football. He's got a big arm. McLaurin, much like Pickens here, is far and away the top option, far and away, and is a very good player that I'm sure you know about Terry McLaurin. He's a good player. But he's been underrated his whole career because he's had as bad a quarterback play as any star receiver in recent memory. Well, he doesn't anymore, and he has lightened it up. Even like last week, he only caught 2 passes. Both for a touchdown. He's been really, really productive. Now, the rest of the pass catchers are kind of a group effort. Mentioned Eckler. I would say Ertz is basically their number 2. Both those guys are veteran guys that are still getting it done. And then they got 3 or 4 other receivers. It looks like Noah Brown is taking over that role as the number 2, but they have a bunch of guys kind of like the Steelers, a lot of Van Jefferson plus type guys, but the passing scheme is much better than what Kingsbury used with the Cardinals, which was real Big 12 spread, etc. And the offense as a whole is really diverse, well play called, well coached, well quarterbacked, and pretty talented around Daniels. BetOnline is your world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to inline live betting, BetOnline provides you with from all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds from everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL, to UFC, to MMA. Head to BetOnline today and get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. The other side of the ball, what are the Steelers dealing with on Sunday in Washington? They're pretty strong up the middle, even though Jonathan Allen, probably their best defensive player, defensive tackle, former first-round pick, making a lot of money, is out. But him and Deron Payne were one of the best defensive tackle pairings in the league, which surprised me that in the early second round they drafted Johnny Newton out of Illinois. Well, Newton's really, really good and should have been in the middle, a mid-first round pick, but he had a foot injury and now he is healthy. So even though Allen's a really good player, they haven't missed him. So their defensive tackle pairing is really good. Good thing Frazier's back. Not that McCollum's bad, but I do think getting Frazier back for this one's a good situation. Their defense is like entirely new. I mean, I think 8 starters were not Commanders last year. And their defensive ends are a couple, or 3 or 4 pedigree guys that are retreads like Cleveland Farrell, Dante Fowler, but well coached, getting a lot out of them. They're not living up to being top 10 overall picks, but they've been quality players. I mean, if you remember last year, they traded Sweat, they traded Chase Young. You thought their defensive ends would be terrible, but they're getting more out of these guys than you would think. Bobby Wagner is the quarterback of the whole thing, and he's not what he used to be, but he's still a good player, and he's the leader. And I think I mentioned this yesterday, but, you know, him and Russell Wilson were drafted in the exact same draft class from Seattle, know each other extremely well. Washington's head coach was defensive coordinator for Wilson's second and third year in the league. So they're going to know his tendencies really well. I know that you know that I know that you know. They spent some money on Luvu, the linebacker, who's kind of like a Timmons, you know, where, yeah, he's an off-the-ball linebacker, but he can come down and rush off the edge and crashes hard and is a real disruptive player. He's been good for them. Another Panther they grabbed is Jeremy Chin, the big, strong safety type. So they're in pretty good shape. I don't think, I'm recording this Thursday night, I don't think Lattimore, who they just traded for on Tuesday, is going to play in this game because not only is he new there, but he missed Wednesday and Thursday practice with a hamstring. He's under contract for the next couple of years, so that's a big picture signing. But the reason they signed him, well, they're not great at outside corner. I mean, that's why they went after him, not signing, trade. But Mikey Sanisril is a rookie corner from Michigan who I loved in the draft, feisty, fits the persona of this team, tough, aggressive. He's been playing outside, and he's okay, but he's really built to be a slot, and Lattimore's addition should move everyone down a peg. So St. Just would say on the outside, Sanisril will become the slot, but I think he'll probably end up staying outside for this one. A little smaller, you know, feisty, but a little smaller, more of a slot guy. So their defense is good. Much better against the pass than the run, though. They have had their struggles with the run game. And I'm sure the Steelers are going to look at this like run, take shots over the top, lure Luvu and those guys into the crashing downhill off play action. I don't think the Steeler offense is going to be all that much different. I don't know that you'll see a ton of Mike Williams, but he'll probably go out there and run some vertical routes, you know, some downfield stuff. Maybe they'll throw him a couple. Who knows? They don't have a great answer for Pickens. I'm assuming Lattimore doesn't play. And it's a good defense, but the offensive side of the ball is definitely better for Washington. It's an overachieving, well-coached defense for sure, aggressive, but not super talented, and I think that the bye should help the Steelers in that regard. So in the end, I think special teams is going to be critical. If you listen to last week's podcast or yesterday's podcast, I dug into that. I think that this is going to be a very competitive game. I don't think either team's going to run away with it, but if you lose, I don't think you're going to look at the loser of this game and be like, see, told you they were fraud, they stink. I don't think that's going to be the case, and it won't probably derail either one of these teams all that much. I think they're both going to the playoffs for the money they've put in the bank already. But I think you'll look at the winner and be like, ooh, that's a good football team. It's time for the world to notice that a win like this for both these teams at midseason could really put them a little bit more on the map from, wow, that's maybe that looks like a contender. Now, it's not a cute story that, that they've rebuilt the Commanders or Tomlin's getting a lot out of this team. It could be, that's a legit football team. So I'm picking the Steelers to win, but I don't feel super confident about it. I've gone back and forth in my head. I have this game 26-23. I think Washington will move the football. Excuse me. They kick a ton of field goals. One of the things that they haven't quite figured out is red zone offense. That's extremely, extremely common for rookie quarterbacks to struggle in those tight quarters, all those bodies in a compressed area. Everything's moving a little faster. And the Steelers' red zone defense is the best in the league. So I'm kind of expecting a lot of drives that end in field goals, a lot of production from Washington's offense because it's a good one and they produce every week. But I don't know that there'll be touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. So I have them scoring 23 points. I do think there's some things you can exploit on the Commanders' defense. But the biggest thing I like in the Steelers' favor is the bye. That you're healthy, you're rested. Tomlin knows how to handle these things. Their history after a bye is tremendous. So I have the Steelers 26, Commanders 23. Next time you'll hear from me is Sunday evening, right after the game. All right, take care.